October 2020. I was a junior in college, and like most students back then, I was completely broke. I spent most of my nights scrolling through job boards, looking for anything that didn't involve a deep fryer or a customer service headset. That's how I found the Blackwood Institute. The ad was simple. It was looking for participants for a 3-night clinical sleep study. The pay was $800. For a 20-year-old living on ramen and caffeine, that was a fortune. The location was an old Victorian manor on the outskirts of the city, which had been converted into a private research facility. I should have been skeptical. I should have wondered why a high-tech sleep study was being conducted in a drafty house built in the 1800s. But I didn't. I just saw the dollar signs. I arrived on a Tuesday evening. The place was isolated, tucked behind a thick line of dead oak trees. A woman named Dr. Aris met me at the door. She was professional, dressed in a crisp white lab coat, but her eyes were restless. She led me to my room on the second floor. It was a small, windowless space that clearly used to be a large walk-in closet. There was a single bed, a nightstand, and a heavy metal door that looked like it belonged in a prison. In the corner, a single high-definition camera was mounted to the ceiling, its red power light glowing like a small, angry eye. "The camera is for your safety," she told me. "We need to monitor your REM cycles and any physical disturbances." She attached several electrodes to my temples and chest, then told me to get some rest. I remember thinking it felt more like being prepared for an execution than a medical study. The first night was uneventful. I woke up feeling groggy, but Dr. Aris was there with a check for $200. A good faith payment, she called it. I spent the day in the common room, which was just a dusty library filled with medical texts from the 1950s. There were 2 other participants there, a man in his 50s and a girl about my age. Neither of them wanted to talk. They just stared at the walls with this vacant, hollow look in their eyes. It was the second night when things changed. Nervous, I was lying in bed, trying to ignore the hum of the air conditioning, when I felt something sharp under my pillow. I reached under and pulled out a small, hand-carved wooden doll. It was crude, with jagged features and locks of real human hair glued to the head. My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't put it there. The room had been empty all day. I looked up at the camera, expecting some kind of reaction from the monitoring station. Nothing. The red light just stared back. I decided to try and sleep, telling myself it was just some weird psychological test. But an hour later, I heard it. The heavy metal door groaned open. I kept my eyes shut, pretending to be asleep. I heard soft, rhythmic footsteps approaching the bed. I expected the cold touch of a stethoscope or a nurse checking the electrodes. Instead, I felt someone lean down, whispering. I could feel their warm breath on my ear. They didn't say a word. They just stayed there, hovering, for what felt like 10 minutes. Then I felt a hand slowly, deliberately, stroke my hair. Every instinct in my body told me to scream, but I was paralyzed by a cold, primal terror. After a moment, the person stood up and walked out. The door clicked shut. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, Dr. Aris wasn't there. A man I hadn't seen before, a tall, gaunt man with a twitch in his left hand, brought me my breakfast. I tried to ask him about the person in my room, but he just shook his head and walked away. That's when I decided I was done. I didn't care about the money. I just wanted out. I waited until the man was out of sight. Then I slipped out of my room. I wanted to find the monitoring station, the place where they kept the computers and the camera feeds. I found it at the end of the hallway, behind a door that had been left slightly ajar. I stepped inside, and my blood turned to ice. There were no medical monitors. There were no heart rate graphs or brainwave charts. Instead, there was a single laptop sitting on a folding table. On the screen was a grid of video feeds. One was my room. Another was the girl's room. The third was the older man's room. But it wasn't a medical software. It was a website, a live streaming site, with a chat box scrolling on the right side of the screen. I leaned in and read the comments. "The boy is waking up. One user wrote, "I like the hair stroking. Tell the nurse to do it again, but use the knife this time." Another comment read, "How much for the physical interaction package? I want to be the one to go in tonight." I realized then that the Blackwood Institute wasn't a research facility. It was a stage. We were the content, and people were paying to watch us sleep or worse. I looked at the bottom of the screen and saw a countdown timer. Next physical interaction, 0200, 2 in the morning. I looked at the clock on the wall. It was 1:55. In a hurry tone. I didn't even go back for my shoes. I turned to run, but as I reached the door, I heard the heavy front door of the mansion open downstairs. Multiple sets of footsteps. Heavy, confident footsteps. Nervous. I heard Dr. Aris's voice, but she wasn't professional anymore. She was laughing. "We have a big spender tonight," she said. "He wants the full experience. Make sure the subjects are still sedated." I scrambled into the library and hid behind a large mahogany desk. I watched through the crack in the door as 3 men in expensive suits walked past, led by the gaunt man from earlier. One of the men was carrying a leather bag that looked like a set of surgical tools. I knew I couldn't go out the front door. I ran to the back of the house, looking for a servant's entrance or even a window I could break. I found a small mudroom with a wooden door. I yanked on it, but it was dead-bolted from the outside. I could hear them coming up the stairs. They were going to my room first. I realized if I didn't move now, I was dead. I found a heavy brass fire extinguisher on the wall. I didn't think, I just swung it with everything I had against the glass pane of the mudroom door. The sound was deafening in the quiet house. I heard a shout from upstairs. "He's out. The boy is out." I scrambled through the broken glass, ignoring the shards cutting into my palms, and hit the cold, wet grass outside. I didn't look back. I ran through the woods, the branches clawing at my face like skeletal fingers. I didn't stop until I reached the main road and flagged down a passing trucker. When the police went to the Blackwood Institute 2 hours later, the house was empty. No furniture, no computers, no Dr. Aris. Even the other participants were gone. The police told me the house had been in foreclosure for years and was supposed to be vacant. They found my shoes and the wooden doll, but that was it. I thought it was over. I moved to a different state, changed my number, and tried to forget the look in those doctors' eyes. But 3 months ago, I received an email from an encrypted address. There was no text, just an attachment. It was a video file. I opened it, and my heart stopped. It was a recording of me, sleeping in that tiny room on the second night. But the video didn't end when the nurse left. It kept going. The camera zoomed in on my face, and a voiceover, a deep, distorted voice said, whispering, "He's a runner." That makes the next session even more valuable. I don't sleep well anymore. Every time I close my eyes, I wonder if someone somewhere is paying to watch me do it. I check the corners of every room I enter for that little red light, and sometimes, in the middle of the night, I think I hear a heavy metal door groaning open. Be careful which studies you sign up for. Some people aren't looking for data. They're looking for prey. See you in the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe.